the greatest threats and the greatest weaknesses that we are all aware of as it relates to inflation and everything else that developers talk about on your call. But at the end of the day, if you stay disciplined to process execution and your core business, there are ways to reprogram your deals and distance your deals insofar as reassessing risk and value.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Marc Bonilla says that there is not one deal that he's presented with that he's unable to see the ability to create value in. Marc, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Marc, the pleasure's mine. There are 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show. In 90 seconds or less, can you tell me, where did you start, where are you now, and how did you get there?
I started in the tech space out in Silicon Valley. And right out of college, I went to work for a telecommunication company. And I was doing much of the engineering side of the technology that we were selling at the time. And I found myself as a top salesperson. They moved me out to Silicon Valley from Phoenix. And essentially my job was to interface with the Fortune 50 and be a value enhancer on the telecommunications side, meeting with developers and meeting with designers and meeting with architects.
Right.
And sitting down in some of those pre-designed meetings, I really built an affinity for design, and it just seemed so sexy. Development did. And so naturally, when the .com busted, on the forefront of that was technology, and I lost my company and came back to Arizona. So I launched my commercial real estate career, through several different discussions with mentors that I had. And, you're going to find out through this interview that, the mentorship element of success is something that is suffering from diminishing returns. And that is a big part of how one could scale growth and success, and really understanding how to, or how important it is, mentorship within the community. So once I met with my, I call them my executive team, I sat down, I said the ultimate goal was to get into development and commercial real estate investing. And it was widely, the decision was widely made, much to my dismay, to start within brokerage. And so I started at Colliers International, and I was there for about 15 years before I launched VIAONE Commercial Real Estate Group. But before that, I launched a sort of a small little micro fund, and I was the GP on that fund. And it was, it was a capital raise of about $3 million. And the whole idea was to go out as the marketplace and look for, value opportunities. And what a value profile meant was relative to where I can go in and I could diagnose, what the application of value is. I've built out a very strong, political network here in the Valley. I've built a very strong reputation in terms of, the academics of going in and seeing opportunities and being able to work through the academic side. But most importantly, it's a discipline that one has to have, to a constant commitment to learning. It's an everyday process of learning, and if you're a lifelong learner in this business, you can find success, and you can go into any deal and be able to diagnose where the opportunity profile is.
One of the things that we talked about before launching this episode was that you love difficult deals. You love things that are kind of complex that most people walk away from. Can you give me an example deal and how you guys capitalized on the challenge?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I could tell you that, a deal that I'm probably largely known for here in Arizona was a deal that's probably near and dear to my heart, because during that deal, I lost a best friend. And, his name is Wayne. And I would say that Wayne was instrumental in the success that I've been able to attain. And, learning from Wayne insofar as understanding how to architect your business based upon relationships and based upon the idea of every opportunity, every deal that you go into, make sure that you're the one that's the value enhancer. Don't be the one that is in the deal that is looking to take something from the deal. Always look to give back to the deal, because invariably, partners come back, and once they see that your objective is to give, not to take, that's how I learned. So the most notable deal that I stumbled into was a deal out in Tempe where one of the brokers within the valley was working with this elderly woman that did not want to list the property with a broker. And it was very close to ASU. It was a small little parcel, and her husband had just passed away at the time. And this was just this is a A+ site. And she was so reluctant to hire a broker that probably would have got her a 10 times multiple. Well, she went out to Walmart and bought a for sale sign, and very quickly I showed up in my car and I delivered an offer to her, and I said, Edna, this is principal to principal, and I would love to do a deal with you. And so I negotiated a deal on a piece of property, went in escrow, had no idea how I was going to pay for it. It was maybe $1.7 million, I think, at the time. But I realized that it was a piece of gold, and it was in the path of growth. And all of the programming around ASU was amplifying value, and it was really creating a dearth of opportunities out there. And so just to get a foothold on that piece, for me, represented a proposition of, I don't know what I'm going to do with it right now.
Right.
But I know that long term, this is going to turn into something that is potentially legacy. So I purchased it somehow. I think I went through about every capital institution here within the valley, and finally I was able to pick up some short-term financing. And then that's when I brought in my partner Wayne. And then from there, I put together kind of a strategic path on a sort of bigger scale project with respect to a project that lent itself to the Hayden Ferry sort of corridor, which is a development that's just outside of ASU. And at the time, it was just absolutely proliferating. And, we looked at several different development iterations and profiles. And we were very keen on working with the city to make certain that we were taking feedback from the city as it relates to executing on a development that lent itself to that area. And so from there, we were able to assemble 6 other parcels, and when we were done, we owned the entire city block corner. And a big piece of that was negotiating directly with the city. And so the ability to understand how important political relationships are, understanding how the political landscape works, understanding how critically important it is to make the city a part of your development. Sometimes it's unrealistic what they're looking for, but you also want to be a good developer in so far as sitting down and listening to what it is that's important, because at the end of the day, you can come to a place where everybody's happy. Yeah,
that's challenging for some of us to hear. Guys like myself, I kind of want you to stay out of my business and I'll stay out of yours, and that just doesn't work.
Yeah.
When you've got a situation like this, my approach will fail every single time.
Yeah.
What steps did you take specifically when you say that you went and took feedback from the city? Where did you even start on that?
Yeah, it's right. There's always this struggle with the private sector and the public sector, and a developer is always the bad guy. And I don't know, maybe it's just blind optimism that we're coming into to a whole new register where developers are thinking differently. There's more of a focus and thought institution around on being responsible. Responsible development is really important for us. And so the steps that we took were to sit down with the councilman of that respective district, and then from there figure out, sort of the mapping within all of the council folks within Tempe. And we bootstrap campaigned and met with all of those, and we took a little piece of advice from each one of them. And what that taught me was, number one, the city wants to be involved in transformative projects. And when they get the idea that you're a developer that is open to the idea of listening to the city, it makes things so much easier to do. Because the old school mapping was, you're a developer, you go in and you drop the hammer. And when somebody really pisses you off, the development community typically wins because it's about money. There's just a different way. There's a better way to do it. And, building relationships. And if you don't want to have long-term sustainability in a marketplace, I could tell you that, not to get off track, but I found tremendous success by staying in my backyard because of this very reason. Scalability as it relates to anything is building relationships to be able to understand and have help to work you through a matrix.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me this. You guys kind of have a few different focuses inside of your business. I know development is a large part of it. You guys also have a brokerage. Is there any one that kind of takes priority over another, or? Yeah,
good question. My aspirational idea when I launched VIAONE was in the namesake. It was an idea that was based upon creating a company that would be a value enhancer by way of taking multiple different disciplines and delivering it through VIAONE application. And so this idea was to build out the brokerage division to feed the development side of the house. And I learned very quickly that having a handful of brokers out in the marketplace, wheeling and dealing, when trying to focus on continuing to advance development opportunities, it just didn't work, because I was finding a lot of my time having to deal with the sandbox brokerage type of activities that didn't have any return on my time. So we scaled that back during COVID, and COVID changed the landscape for everyone. And we all kind of realized that, we work in a business that we feel like we're all in this silo, but the reality is everything is so external right now. The external idea of being able to go into a deal and see opportunities within a deal reside in the ability externally, from an existential perspective, to go out and walk out of a deal and make 3 calls and be able to put a deal together. And again, that goes back to my philosophy and philosophical approach to business, and that is adding value through relationships, adding value to people. Don't put money first, put people first. And so we really scaled back the brokerage side, and now we're in a place where we've got some really talented guys that put together this restaurant advisory group, and they are exacting in their focus, and they are right where they need to be. And a lot of the projects that we do have a heavy emphasis in the restaurant side.
That is wild. It sounds like you guys really refocused and rebuilt almost in the pandemic, gave you an opportunity to re-engineer your business and say, this is what we're going to do moving forward.
Had to. It still shocks me, even today, as market dynamics shift, as they always do. And this notion that you can continue to do this business and not understand that the board is moving constantly. We're all playing the same game on the same board. And if you're frustrated that you're playing and you've got chips on the board and the board is moving, well, that's all of us,
right?
If you're going to throw your hands up in the air and walk away, then you really don't understand the business, because again, it is moving chips on the board to be able to reprogram deals, to be able to make any deal work within any market. Right now, everybody understands the greatest threats and the greatest weaknesses that we are all aware of as it relates to inflation and everything else that developers talk about on your call. But at the end of the day, if you stay disciplined to process execution and your core business, there are ways to reprogram your deals and distance your deals insofar as reassessing risk and value. And I think that smart money right now is going through a monumental re-indexing of risk and value right now.
Absolutely. Tell me about the restaurant advisory side of your business. I mean, that is in its own right, to me, seems like, okay, that's kind of a left turn from what you guys were previously involved in. Maybe it wasn't. So if so, can you kind of give me some color to that?
Yeah. I guess on the nose, it seems like it was a sharp left turn, but most of the projects that we were doing at the time that I was the GP on, or I was largely the capital behind, were mixed use projects, and most of those projects had an out parcel commercial component. And so, for me, going into projects and seeing opportunities to be able to lend our expertise to developments that proliferate the strong economic growth that we're seeing in Arizona, which is probably one of the strongest fundamentally in the country.
Right.
But our ability to really understand that commercial piece within a mixed use project has created a value for us, where developers now are starting to retreat, and there's this flock to security, and that flock to security is a flock to what you know. And you had a lot of multifamily developers out there thinking that they were retail developers, and understand how that retail component could amplify a project, or could effectively kill a project.
Right.
And so for us, that's a real value proposition and a scaling opportunity that I saw. And I can tell you right now, as a result of that pivot, just going through, a realignment of the brokerage side has probably opened up, close to $100 million worth of development opportunities we're a part of right now.
And is that on the mixed use / retail component, where you just said, hey, this is kind of an not an under invested in, but really under maximized, if that's even the right word. I just made that up. But just kind of, there's a lot
misunderstood.
of misunderstood. Thank you. That's the right word.
No, you're right on track. There's no question that when the market was moving at a clip that it was, you can miss a read. And if you're fast enough and the market was fast enough to still make your drop. And for us, it was very much seeing how the market was playing out, and then seeing how the cities were slowing down as it related to entitlements, which is still happening right now. And I mean, this is a much bigger issue that keeps developers up at night, but it largely has to do with timing elements, date downs, and timing expectations within the city. Everything is taking twice as long now. Workforce participation is a real issue, but at the end of the day, there's still a pipeline of projects that are going to work their way through the cities, and at some point, these folks that have projects that haven't figured out how the retail or the commercial component that was almost a giveaway at the time is really now going to come back, and the cities are really going to focus on, we need an activation, a full activation, as it relates to how people are living now, as it relates to community area developments and how the market is starting to segment itself. And mixed use projects really need to reflect how people are living right now. And so if you don't understand how commercial or the retail piece is going to thread the needle of your project, then bring in somebody who is going to understand that. And I can tell you, for me, my guys have brought me into deals where I've been able to go in and figure that piece out very quickly.
How do you guys find that opportunity? I mean, it sounds like you need someone out there that already has a project in mind, that maybe it's mixed use, maybe it's, I don't know, whatever the project is, but they may not even know that they need somebody like yourself to come along and help them maximize that opportunity. How are you connecting with those people in the marketplace?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple of different arteries. We're very innovative, as you can see, being 45 years old, walking in to meet with the mayor, and the mayor looking at me like that is the developer. I'm not used to seeing somebody that's got hair and it's, that's younger, but not to be tongue in cheek, but the reality is we really pride ourselves on being innovative and taking advantage of technological opportunities. Right now, we are very very heavy and very vested in social media. Social media that's the new calling card. That's the new cold calling. That is really understanding where your target audience is. Right. And there's so many different social media platforms right now that it's it's been a little shocking to me. And I kind of feel like an old man. I was telling one of my brokers, it's really sharp kid, younger man, but he was telling me about certain social media outlets, and I'm just thinking to myself, if I was looking for a date, that might work. But what we're doing here is commercial real estate development execution.
Right.
And so he went through and showed me on a pragmatic basis all of the sort of mid-cap companies that have sort of the same DNA as us, and how they have figured out how to monetize social media. So I could tell you that social media has been a windfall for the organization and for myself. That's one. Number two, I'm very, very politically active. I don't know, for me, it is near and dear to my heart because my mentor, Wayne Howard, showed me the value of getting involved in the community, giving back to the community, understanding leadership within the community, and then becoming a part of that. And so there's, Arizona is going through a little bit of a political shift, if you will. And I think it's probably happening across the country. And so, for us, particularly for me, it is, that's my opportunity to give back in terms of what I feel like is a civil duty. And it's a responsibility to give back. And I really enjoy that piece. And it just so happens that piece is a tremendous value to my to my business. So I can tell you that I get deals by proxy because of my involvement within each one of these cities, because the cities are very comfortable with me and my ability to execute and go in and figure out a botched deal.
That's really, really cool. I love that, Mark. Mark, you've given us so much here to think about today, both from the involvement from the city side, like you were just talking about, the creative solutions that you have to bring to the table with out-of-the-box thinking on properties that other people may be overlooked, or just how to overcome obstacles. You talked about being vested in social media. Even for guys like myself, it is hard. It is hard every day because you're like, my gosh, the last thing I want to do is get on social media, communicate with anyone. I'm a total introvert, so communication is the last thing that I like to do on any given day.
Yeah.
But yet how important it is. And it's one of those things where I think it's getting in the reps. You've given us a lot to think about.
The importance to, sorry to interrupt you, but
Please.
and I want to be clear about this because I just got a text from one of my guys that we have been, I don't want to kind of glaze over how deliberate and exacting we are. It's tough I wish I had 15 hours with you. You'd probably get more personality from me, but everything that we do is very deliberate, very exacting. It isn't some folksy idea that, this is the trend right now. And this is what we should be doing. No, it is really understanding, from a forensic standpoint, from an analytical standpoint, those efforts, I need to see analytics and the support thereof. And so I can tell you that our social media presence and our other outlets in terms of business development are all exacting and all have an alignment that is completely integrated across the board.
That's really cool. I love the pre-site work, I think was a term you had used earlier. That kind of goes into, the development, obviously taking that from your development side of your business, but the same idea that goes into your online social media, just design. It's like, hey, we're going to lay out the groundwork and then we're going to fill it in. So
yeah, it's shocking to me a lot of times when I go to speaking engagements or speaking forums, people want to understand what we've been able to do. And what I naturally think to myself is simple. We see the market as it comes at us. However, we see the market as it comes at us within the locus of our control. And the locus of our control means that we've already laid a foundation of site work to create long-term successful outcomes. And yeah, there's going to be some, crossing the lanes and moving across a swim lane. But if you do that work up front, it doesn't matter how the deal shifts. You've already done the pre-site work. And a lot of folks live and die by the sword, because once the deals start to come in and you've reached that tipping point, then they're working backwards and they're trying to get that work done that they could have capitalized on right now. But all of that is being deliberate, and all of that is being exacting, and all of that is making sure that from an organizational standpoint, everybody is aligned and everybody has their obligations for success. That's a big thing for us. Is everybody that's within my organization, I can be a little bit prickly at times, because I have a expectation that is largely unrealistic, even for myself, and I tend to levy that on other people, and it's unfair. But I can tell you that the guys that I have within my organization, they know that I love them and their family, and that too lends itself to the success that we have, because when you're with people that are going to have your back and that are fiercely talented, you're not wasting time thinking about other things that aren't in accordance with economic and business development that we are seeing in spades right now.
That's awesome. Marc, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to come on the show today. If our listeners want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
I appreciate that. I can say probably the best way would be our website, which is www.VIAONECRE.com, or you can reach out to me personally at marc@VIAONECRE.com. And I can tell you that, just to be clear, our focus is 100% Arizona. We have no desire to want to scale into any other market because we dominate this market by staying disciplined to that idea.
I love it. I love it. We'll make sure we put that there in the show notes for those of you who are listening. That's VIAONE CRE. That's VIAONECRE.com. Marc, thank you for coming on the show today. I certainly appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you so much.